The next question goes something like this. Identify 10 essential values that are needed to be an efficient public servant. Describe the ways and means to prevent non-ethical behavior in public servants. So, बहुत सारे लोगों ने जिन्होंने ethical traits में ethical values लिख दिए थे, उनको झटका तब लगा जब उन्होंने question number 1B पढ़ा. क्यों? क्योंकि यहाँ पर जो है आप देखोगे actually what is being asked for is the 10 essential values that are needed to be an effective public servant. So it's a direct question, and then it says describe the ways and the means to prevent non-ethical behavior in the public servants. तो चलो इस क्वेश्चन के डिफरेंट वर्ड्स को ब्रेक डाउन कर लेते हैं और समझने की कोशिश करते हैं that what is the actual demand of this question. You see that the first part of the question is cannot be explained in any other simpler terms because the question itself uses very simple language. It says that identify the 10 essential values that are needed to be an effective public servant. An effective public servant is one whose work will have actual impact on the lives and livelihood of the people. मतलब ऐसा नहीं कि just जो कोई काम कर रहे हैं उसका कुछ हो रहा जा रहा नहीं है उस काम से, but actually that work is creating a positive outcome in the society, is helping in the developmental process, is helping in nation building, and is really translating into empowerment of the people. That civil servant would be an effective civil servant. It means one whose work has impact over the society. 10 essential values, you can directly write the foundational values for civil services. So again, you see, this question emanates from the second part of the unit, aptitude and foundational values for civil services. हालांकि आप देख सकते हो कि थोड़ा सा overlap ethics in public administration से भी है. So very safely we can say that question number 1 is completely emanating from the second half of third unit and the sixth unit. It means foundational values for civil services and ethics in public administration. And students would recall that while we were covering these units in the classes, I hammered this point again and again that these parts are the most important parts of the syllabus. You cannot escape these parts. In fact, a lot of questions this year have come from the foundational values for civil services. So anyhow, यहाँ पर आप सीधे सीधे जो foundational values of civil services है, it means those values without which the bureaucracy cannot stand. These are the moral pillars that give strength to any public-centric and people-oriented bureaucratic system. वो सारे 10 values आप directly note down कर सकते हो. What do you understand by this word ways, and what is the meaning of the word means? Ways are nothing but methods. Methods that one could adopt, and means are the instruments, or you can say path. Though you see that the word ways and means are often used interchangeably, but there is a difference between these two words. Ways actually refers to methods, whereas means refers to instruments or paths. So again, let us try to understand this question. See friends, my objective and endeavor in the class today is to help you understand this question paper so that you can prepare well for your upcoming examination. And if you have given the examination, you come to a good situation where you can evaluate your performance in an objective manner. That's why I am going very deep into the particular words that are included in the question. I always maintain this in my classes also, that you have to understand the words, the meaning of the ethical vocabulary. If you do not understand the ethical vocabulary, you will find it very hard to write the answers. So 10 essential values kaun se honge? These are nothing but the foundational values. An effective public servant means that public servant whose work has some impact over the society. Ways means what methods, and means what instruments that can be adopted to prevent non-ethical behavior in public servants. I hope the meaning of the question is clear to each and every one. Now let us try to write a good answer for this one. So we are trying to write an answer for question number 1 B. So first part of the question says that identify the 10 essential values. And the second part says that what are the ways and the means that could be adopted to prevent non-ethical behavior in public servants. Now look here. 10 essential values are nothing but the foundational values. तो यहाँ पर आप क्या करना, सबसे पहले ऐसे क्वेश्चन जब एनकाउंटर करोगे तो फाउंडेशनल वैल्यूज जो हैं उनको वन बाय वन आप उनको लिख लेना एंड राइट 2 or 3 lines for every value. It means a brief explanation of every value. Do not go deep into the value, otherwise again you would be fighting for space and time and you would not be meeting the actual demand of the question. So let us note some of the foundational values for civil services. देखो कुछ लोग तो ऐसा करेंगे that they would write one value like say integrity, impartiality, non-partisanship, लेकिन वो एस्पिरेंट्स जिनको ज्यादा नंबर मिलने वाले हैं वो लोग होंगे जो कुछ हाइब्रिड वैल्यूज भी लिखेंगे, कुछ वैल्यूज कंजंक्शन में भी लिखेंगे, ऐसे जैसे यू कैन नॉट सेपरेट वन फ्रॉम द अदर. लाइक से फॉर एग्जांपल impartiality cannot be separated from non-partisanship, responsibility cannot be separated from accountability, openness cannot be separated from transparency. तो वो इन वैल्यूज को एक वैल्यू की तरह ट्रीट करेंगे. It has a dual advantage. First, you would be actually noting down more values than what has been asked into the question, and this further increases your chances of scoring big. You will not be losing any space or time in doing that. Further, you would pass the message to the evaluator that you understand the interconnection between the values. Do you understand that? So let's write some of the values, and I will include some hybrid values also, some values in conjunction as well. So the first value is integrity, and we cannot think of a civil services system in which there is no integrity. Second is impartiality and non-partisanship. The third value that we can write here is objectivity. The fourth value that we can highlight is dedication to public services. The fifth value that we can highlight is tolerance. Sixth value that we can highlight is openness and transparency. This is very important value when it comes to financial operations in administrative system. The seventh value that we can write is empathy and compassion. Again, these values have been borrowed into the foundational set of values from the basic human value set, because every human being should possess this value of empathy and compassion. Only when you are human, if you do not possess these values, then you cannot be called as a human. Maybe you are a Homo sapien, but you are definitely not a human in the moral universe. Maybe in the biological universe you are a human being, but you are not a human being in the moral universe if you lack empathy or compassion. The next value is responsibility and accountability. Then we can write some more values as well. 9 could be anonymity. 10th could be fortitude. Fortitude is nothing but courage. Anonymity is when civil servants, they function from behind the curtains. They are not hungry or they are not starving for credit. Do you understand that? They are more dedicated to their duty. Then, if you want more values, and you can choose from these values as well. So I'm giving you some additional values as well. 11, you can think of administrative wisdom. This is a very important value. And the 12th value that you can think of is sense of justice. And you can include all kinds of justice: social justice, political justice, cultural justice, economic justice, and any other kind of justice as well. Think of a civil servant who is now playing the role of a returning officer. Is this not his moral duty at this moment to deliver political justice to each and everyone by ensuring free and fair election in his constituency or in his district of which he is the returning officer? Do you understand that? So I have listed more values. In fact, if you see that I have included some values in conjunction as well. But again, I told you the advantage of writing the values in this way. Because mostly you see people will write one solitary value for each entry. But if you write more than one value and you can relate to those values together, they would be considered as a value set. Do you understand that? So rather than giving 10 values, you may be giving some values and some value sets. It will have a great impact, friends, on the mind of the evaluator. समझ में आ जाएगा that this person has prepared very well for the examination and understands ethics, live ethics every day. Do you understand that? So let me give a brief definition of all these values one by one. What is integrity? Integrity, in very simple words, is when you stick to your value set under all circumstances. It means you do the right thing even when nobody is watching. That is integrity. It means a person who is honest only on Monday and Thursdays is not a man of integrity. A man of integrity is one who is honest 24/7. It means whenever you ask a question to that person, he would give an honest reply. Honesty is nothing but it is freedom from deceit. Do you understand that? So integrity is doing the right thing under all circumstances, even when nobody is watching. Because people generally, they behave very nicely when somebody is watching them. But a person of integrity would be one who is behaving the right way even when nobody is watching. Do you get that? That's integrity. What is impartiality? Impartiality is when you take the decisions in a fair manner without bias, prejudice, or stereotypical thought. Or you see that you take the decisions on merit and not on the basis of nepotism, favoritism, or any kind of biasness or prejudice of mind. That is impartiality. Impartial decisions are always based on facts. They are merit-based and they are objective in nature. They are not subjective. There is no place for intuition and subjectivity in impartial decision-making. What is non-partisanship? Non-partisanship is when a person remains politically neutral. It means a civil servant should neither fear nor favor any political party, be it the ruling party or the parties in opposition. His commitment should always be towards the constitution and the people and not to the political party which is in power or the political parties which is in opposition. Only when a civil servant loses this value, you see that there is subversion of the public trust. What is public trust? Public trust is the faith that people have placed in the administration, that the administration will take care of the people. लेकिन अगर civil servant जो है वो politically motivated है, then you see that he will not be able to discharge his duties in an impartial manner. Do you understand that? Next come objectivity. Objectivity is when you take your decisions on the basis of facts and not on the basis of assumptions. When decisions are made on the basis of assumptions, you would see that such a decision making is not objective decision making. Objective decision making would be ensured when there is impartiality and non-partisanship into the system. Now look here that कब हम बोलेंगे कि एक decision जो है वो objectively right है? तब बोलेंगे when if you or anybody else who is in the similar circumstance end up with the same decision. Like you have the preliminary examination, right? The preliminary examination is an objective examination. So suppose for a particular question number, the answer is B. Suppose that's the answer. So for all the candidates who are fighting that examination, for all of them, the answer would be B. It means irrespective of who is giving the paper, the answer does not change. That is objective examination. Whereas if you are writing the civil services main examination, for the same question, there could be more than one answer and different aspirants can handle the same question in different manners. Do you understand that? That's why you see, friends, that a civil servant should, as far as possible, maintain objectivity while he is in the process of decision making. Then dedication to public services. Dedication to public services is nothing but when you uphold the spirit of the public services, when you show unflinching faith in the administration and you believe that administration is the machinery which will cause the positive transformation in the society, who is the vehicle to deliver socio-economic justice to the people. तब आप बोलोगे that the person is dedicated to the public services. Like say for example, a civil servant who comes on time, manages the resources efficiently, does not lose his time in other things while work is pending, is one who is dedicated to public services. Or think of a traffic policeman who stands in rain, who stands in blazing sun, yet performs his duty, is a person who is dedicated to public services. Then comes tolerance. What is tolerance? Tolerance is when you entertain those values, when you entertain those perceptions, and when you entertain those opinions which are not your values, your perceptions, and your opinions. It means that you give space to everyone. A civil servant should be tolerant. If a civil servant lacks tolerance, suppose he is communally or caste, from the point of view of caste biased, then he would not be able to treat everyone at par. In fact, tolerance, objectivity, and impartiality, they all are related to each other. What is tolerance? Tolerance is when you give space to everyone, you entertain everybody's thought. At the same time, you assert your thought as well, but you do not impose your thought on others. Like the Taliban is an intolerant society. Do you understand that? And that's why they are the very antithesis of tolerance. Whereas if you look at the Indian culture has been from time immemorial tolerant in nature. So from the ancient times till the present times, you see that the Indian culture is tolerant. Do you understand that? And all efforts which were made by the English, say for example, to destroy the toleration of the Indian society was destroyed by the Indian national movement. But do we have challenges in our society in and around this value? Yes, we definitely have. All societies have. In fact, Voltaire said that I do not believe in what you say, but I will fight till my death for your right to say. That is tolerance. That's the most beautiful thing that we can say with respect to tolerance. And Voltaire was a French philosopher. Anyhow, next is openness and transparency. Openness is the very antithesis of secrecy. And think of, say, right to information. Right to information is a piece of legislation which celebrates this idea of openness. Transparency means that you are doing the things in such a manner as if your actions are not shielded from the other stakeholders who have interest in the action. Be it the subordinates, be it the superior, be it the people, be it the political executive, be it the civil society organization, be it the NGOs, be it anybody. Whoever is interested in the action, you are not trying to shield anything from that stakeholder. So openness and transparency, again, they are interrelated to each other. There's a very finite difference. Openness is more with respect to information sharing. Transparency is more with respect to decision making. ये बात आप ध्यान में रखना. Then comes empathy and compassion. Empathy is when you realize or when you try to appreciate somebody else's problem from that person's perspective. It means when you enter into the shoes of some other persons and try to understand the pain, the hardship, the misfortune that that person is experiencing. It means suppose if you see a beggar on the road and if you just feel sorry for that beggar, then this is sympathy but no empathy. Empathy is when you can go into the shoes of that beggar and understand really the hardships, the physical hardship, the mental hardships that that person must be going through because he is subjected to begging. Do you understand that? Or suppose a child labor, a divyang or anyone, if you can understand their problems from their perspective, then this is empathy. Compassion is a step ahead than empathy. Only when you are empathetic, you can be compassionate. In fact, compassion is a superset and empathy is a subset within it. Being compassionate means, or having compassion means, that you are willing to help a person so that he can come out of his or her hardship. Like suppose if you have a friend and that friend is suffering from a disease, you understand the pain that your friend is experiencing, that would be empathy. If you actually take your friend to the doctor, or you bring medical care for your friend, and with that medical care your friend fights that disease and comes as a victorious person out of that disease, then it can be concluded that you have compassion. Compassion is nothing but karuna. It means when you feel for somebody and you are filled with the urge to help that person so that the person's hardships end for all times. Do you understand that? That is compassion. The next is responsibility and accountability. Responsibility is that when you take the burden of performing a duty. That is the responsibility. Like say for example, responsibility could be economic responsibility, social responsibility, political responsibility, cultural responsibility, any kind of administrative responsibility, any kind of responsibility. So responsibility is when you bear the burden of performing a task. That's responsibility. What is accountability? Accountability is answerability. Answerability of why you have done something, or answerability when you have failed to do something which was expected from you. Suppose you are working in the income tax department and it was expected that you would help the government in the collection of the tax revenues, but you have failed and the time limit which was set for the collection of tax revenues has expired. Now you are accountable to the superiors and to the people why you have failed in collecting the taxes. You know that tax revenue is an important revenue for the government for funding its schemes, programs, policies, etc. So keep this in mind, friends, that responsibility and accountability are inextricably intertwined. They cannot be separated from each other. That's why you have to take both of them together. Do you understand that? Then comes anonymity. Anonymity is when a civil servant works behind the curtains. He is not hungry for praise. He is not fearful about criticisms. Rather, he is unwaveringly dedicated, committed to the public services. His idea is to uphold the public trust. He is the custodian of the public resources. He is not hungry for fame. He is not hungry for any kind of name. He is not hungry for prestige. That's an important value. Civil servants should have this value. Do you understand that? Because the civil servants are the actual people who work behind the curtains. They are always functioning at the backstage, but they are the people who ensure that the show is going on uninterruptedly. Do you understand that? So, anonymity is an important value that all civil servants must possess. Then comes fortitude. Fortitude is nothing but courage. Now think of this, that suppose a civil servant is being coerced by his superiors, seniors, or suppose some other entity to indulge into corruption. To stand against such kind of coercion, the civil servant would require fortitude or courage. In fact, Plato calls this as a fundamental value, as a cardinal virtue. And you cannot think of civil services, or you cannot imagine of a civil servant if you take away fortitude or you divorce courage from his personality. Because a civil servant who lacks fortitude is a burden on the people. Do you understand that? So all civil servants should have fortitude. What is administrative wisdom? Administrative wisdom is when the civil servant actually understands the actual benefit of the policy, the challenges of the policy, and the resources that would be required for implementing the policy. Only when a civil servant has vision, when he is visionary, when he can understand what may happen because of this, then only you can understand he is having administrative wisdom. In fact, wisdom is nothing but prudence. Plato again calls prudence as a cardinal virtue. In fact, there are 4 cardinal virtues of Plato: prudence, temperance, fortitude, and justice. So the last value which is necessary for a civil servant is sense of justice. What kind of justice? All kinds of justice. Well, what is justice? अगर आप बोलोगे कि justice को define करिए, तो देखो ये बहुत मुश्किल है justice को define करना. But in very simple words, we can say justice is delivered when every person gets his or her due. That is justice. Or as Martin Luther King Jr. has said, that justice is when you do the right thing to the right person in the right amount at the right time in the right degree with the right intention. That is justice. Do you understand that? In fact, Socrates also gave up his life because he wanted to uphold justice. So you can understand that the major role of a civil servant, remember we discussed the different roles of the civil servant in the last question. So one important role of the civil servant was service delivery. And you see that if the civil servant is not having the value of justice, he would not be able to deliver services which create socio-economic justice in the society. Clear? So this is the first part of the answer, the 10 essential values. आप ज़्यादा भी लिख सकते हो, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, but ऐसे arrange करना उनको कि जब आप उनको numbering करो तो वो 10 ही हो जाए. You will not lose any mark, but there are chances that you may get more marks, right? Now let us talk about the ways and the means that we can adopt to prevent non-ethical behavior in civil servants, right? That is what the question is asking for. So look here, what are the ways? The ways could be, first, legal ways. The ways could be social ways. Ways could be moral ways. Ways could be judicial ways. Ways could be political ways. Ways could also be institutional ways. Let's try to understand that what are these ways. Legal ways means through legislation and laws. Social ways means through society. Moral ways means through ethics or morality. Judicial ways means obviously judiciary acting as a check on the action of the civil servants. Political ways means the political executive acting as a check on the action of the civil servants. Institutional ways mostly includes the processes and systems that the institutions should adopt that prevent the civil servant to go into the territory of immorality. Now, let us highlight some of the means or instruments that we can have under these ways. Say, for example, for legal ways, think of some laws, right? Like think of the Right to Information or the Whistleblower Protection Act. So these ways, think of Right to Information and Whistleblower Protection Act. These instruments always keep the civil servants on their toes, that do not move into the territory of immorality, otherwise you would be called. And these instruments will be the devices that would help the people in calling out your name, that you are morally, ethically and administratively corrupt, not fit for the civil services. That's why legal ways, strong laws, good laws that create balance between initiative and unwarranted indulgence, like RTI, the Whistleblower Protection Act, etc., could be good instruments. They are good means under these legal ways. Think of social ways. Social ways could be, think of social audit. Social audit creates social accountability or accountability towards the people. आप देखोगे इसी question paper में social audit पे एक अलग question आया ही हुआ है. So that's why you see this year it was foundational values for civil services, which I told number of times in the class that prepare this thing very well. Lot of questions are going to come from this section. And administrative ethics. You see, these two areas have dominated this year's question paper. But don't think that other areas are not important, because you know the only thing certain about UPSC is its uncertainty. It can do anything, whatever it desires. There is nothing which can stop it from doing anything. Do you understand that? That's why prepare holistically. Then comes social audit. Social audit, like think of how it is done under the NREGA program. So social audit is a good way or good instrument under the social ways, or think of Janta Darbar, which is often conducted by the civil servants or the political executives, and there the political executives make the civil servant to answer to the questions that are raised by the people. Janta Darbars are nothing but people courts. Do you understand that? But these are not courts of trial, but these are courts which fix accountability. Then think of grievance redressal mechanisms. These are also means. Think of an ombudsman, and an ombudsman can often help in ensuring social accountability. Though you can think of this grievance redressal also as a part of institutional ways, but it has relevance in the social ways section as well. When it comes to moral ways, you can think of code of ethics or code of conduct. You can also include, say, with the grievance redressal, you can also use citizens' charter. Citizens' charters are also good means to ensure accountability of the civil servants. And when you ensure accountability, obviously they will not wander into the wilderness of immorality. You can also think of citizen charter, grievance redressal as part of institutional ways as well. अब दोनों जगह भी लिख दोगे तो कोई problem नहीं है. Then think of the judicial ways. Judicial ways would be the administrative tribunals, fast track courts. They would keep the civil servants on their toes. They will ensure that they do not go into the well of immorality. Political ways would be where the civil servants would be responsible to the ministers. So you see, all the ministries have such kind of internal accountability mechanisms wherein the civil servants, they are responsible to the ministers, and the ministers are responsible to the people. Therefore, you see, indirectly the civil servants become responsible to the people as well. In social ways, they become directly responsible to the people. The intermediary in the form of the minister or the political executive is evaporated in that context. Clear? So keep this thing in mind. Institutional ways, the processes and systems. Process and system, what kind of processes? Think of e-governance processes. Think of citizens' charter. Think of the various systems which are adopted that promote faceless interactions. Like say for example, how the income tax department does faceless assessment. तो ये सारी चीजें वो institutional mechanisms होंगे या institutional means होंगे जिसके through we can prevent a civil servant going into the well of immorality. Do you understand that? So this is what was the actual demand for question number 1B. So friends, I hope that this question is also clear to each and every one of you. Now I open the floor for your questions. Please ask your question relevant to this question only. Anand Prakash asks, Sir, can Plato's 4 cardinal virtues be the answer to question number 1? No, dear, they cannot be the answer for question number 1, because question number 1 was directly asking about ethical traits, which are attributes or qualities, whereas these are virtues. Virtues are nothing but values that keep the moral ship anchored amidst storm of immorality. Do you understand that? So values are something which you hold very dear to yourself, which are worth holding to. You do not give them up. देखो ये जो कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ वैल्यू है एथिक्स में, ये इकोनॉमिक्स से आया है. इकोनॉमिक्स में हमेशा हम बात करते हैं वैल्यू की, whether land has value, whether this money has value, what is the exchange rate, all of that. Do you understand that? When we talk about value in ethics, what we actually indicate is whether this thing is worth holding to or not. Like say for example, integrity is worth holding to, compassion is worth holding to. That's why these are values. You cannot do that, dear. Otherwise, that would be not catering to the actual demand of the question. Now, Meera has asked a question. Sir, most of the times we see many civil servants promoting their work on social media. Is it not unethical, or is it unethical to show off what comes under the basic set of duties of a civil servant? You see, here again, Meera, we have to understand that whether the civil servants are using the social platform to create awareness, for crowdsourcing, or for knowledge transformation, or for dissemination of information, or they are using it for furthering their personal interest. If suppose a particular IPS officer has done some encounter and then he poses with the body of the dead person with a pistol in hand, that would definitely be immoral and unethical, because in that case he is looking for prestige, or he is trying to gain fame. He wants to feature into the front pages of the local newspaper or national newspaper. That would be unethical. But if you see that suppose there is an IS officer in Manipur, his name is Armstrong Pame, is known as the Miracle Man. He has used actively social media to raise funds, and that fund was used in making a road, 100-kilometer road, which today connects Manipur with Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland and Assam. And this road was made purely with people's money. That's why he is also known as the People's Officer or Miracle Man. So there he made extensive use of social media, but the cause, the intention matters. That is why Kant says, Immanuel Kant, the German philosopher, he says that only thing that matters in this world is goodwill. It means what is your intention behind the performance of the action. The consequences are irrelevant. Do you understand that? So keep that thing in mind. Arushi has asked a question, sir, what is meant by conflict of interest? Well, you see, conflict of interest is a situation when two interests, they collide with each other, and the person in question finds it very hard to distinguish that which interest should be given preference over the other one. Or think of this. Suppose there is a soldier, and the soldier is duty bound to go and fight in the battlefield. Suppose a war is on, and at the same time he has an ailing mother back in home. There is no one to take care of the mother. If he leaves, then the mother is surely going to perish. But if he decides to stay with his mother, he would be violating the code of ethics of the military or the defense forces. He would be demeaning his uniform if he decides not to go. If he goes, he would be demeaning his duties as a son. So this is where there is a conflict of interest, a conflict between personal interest and national interest. Do you understand that? And you see, here is where the value set helps. Here is where different techniques, laws, code of ethics, they help in resolution of such conflict of interest.